Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Darren, and Blizzard finally released the numbers that we'll be able to take a look at when it comes to farming legendaries. With the introduction of Purified Titan Essence, basically a token that allows you to craft and synthesize a random legendary, or a legendary token if you're Captain Legos. This is the type of system that's introduced in patch 735 as the last patch for Legion to help alleviate the legendary debacle, the issue with the RNG, because let's be honest, whether we love legendaries, whether we hate them, if we're going to be using them in PvE, we should care about which ones we need, because some legendaries actually do affect our specializations. Some of them are so much needed that it's almost impossible to play a certain specialization without some of these legendaries. In today's video, I want to cover all the methods you can use in order to farm these legendaries, because now we have all the information in order to cover this. And the reason I want to make this video early is, one, I have a lot of other projects I'm working on. Second, I am in firm belief that 735 is going to come out really soon, so I'd rather put this video out early so I can work on other videos in the future. Now, originally Blizzard made it so that you can't really stack up and prepare for the system ahead of time. So as soon as patch 735 comes out, it's probably going to be the best time to start farming this legendary, so there's no preparation required, even though I would very much like some preparation because I have literally every rogue legendary, and I would love to help out some of my alts get some other legendaries as well. So in this video, let's talk about this system. How do you go about farming legendaries, the pros and the cons of it, which I do think it has some, and just overall throw it on a table and tell you guys my thoughts on it. First of all, there's a lot of activities you can engage in after 735 in order to help yourself farm some of the awakened essences for your Legos. First, heroic dungeon. Every single day will reward you with 30 awakening essences, so multiply that by 7 for 7 days in a week and you get a good chunk of your awakening essences from there. And Taurus bosses can reward you anywhere between 18 to 36 per boss, and there's 11 of them. So if you take a rough average times 11, you get another good chunk of it. Emissary Cash, which is the cash you get for your daily world quests. And this one can average anywhere between 24 to 60, so a little bit of a big swing. But if you take a rough average of this times 7 of these caches, then you'll get you a good chunk. One thing that should be noted, caches awarded prior to 735 will not grant you extra awakening essences, which I'm personally not a huge fan of, because I feel like a lot of people would love to take an extra precautionary planning in order to get as many essences as they could in a single go. Mythic Keystone Cache will reward you with a flat 120, whether you do a 2, whether you do a 5, whether you do a 15 or a 24. It doesn't matter how hard of a Mythic Plus dungeon you do, be sure to get at least a Mythic Plus dungeon done once a week for a good chunk of the Awakening Essence. Weekly PvP quests, and that is 42 from getting your arenas caps and RBG caps. So 42 for 2v2 and 3v3 and rated battleground, so that's 3 different instances of 42 points. And first random battleground victory will award you with 30, so if you are not Alliance and not playing US, hopefully you're playing Horde side, then you should have that easily done once a day for 7 days a week. Overall together, what do you get out of the system? Let's say you do everything from PvP to PvE in a single week. Just how many of these things do you get? You get slightly, if we take just flat averages, you get slightly over 1,000. So you will have a guarantee for legendary. Even if you have low rolls for Emissary Caches, like the lowest amount of rewards, and you get the lowest amount for Taurus bosses, you will still get at least 1,000. But that means you have to do every single activity. So if you're somebody who is not really into PvP, or doesn't really do rated battlegrounds, then you're missing out on 42 from there. Maybe you don't do any kind of PvP at all, so you're missing 42 from 3 different instances. Maybe you're somebody who just does not like to do Mythic Plus dungeons at all, or maybe you just never done it before, you're missing 120. So this works out for somebody who does everything in the game, but of course if you're somebody who is even playing the game casually, it might take you maybe 2 weeks instead of 1 week to get your Lego, but I guess this system does have some merits. Let's first talk about the pros of the system, what I liked about it. I like the idea that if you keep the player busy and you give them a bunch of different things they can do, and they get to choose all the things they can do, if there's somebody who's committed to getting legendary, they will guarantee have one if they do every one of these activities. Even players that are playing casually, even if they do half of these activities, will eventually get their legendary by week 2 or maybe even week 3. Which gives them honestly better odds than completely RNG legendary system we've had so far. Another pro to look out of this, trinket like Amantul's Vision, which counts as a legendary, Insignia of the Grand Army legendary that you get from a questline, and other legendaries you can buy on auction house are not going to be part of the setup, so you'll at least get a form of legendary out of the system. And last thing for pros, but also is kind of a con for the system, is let's say you're capped out on legendaries. Like, my rogue has every legendary that you can get besides the Amethyst Vision, Grand Signia Army, and one of the legendaries from the auction house. That means that I'll get a random legendary slot for a random class. That means, let's say if I get one for Death Knight, if I'm lucky, I can swap it over to my Death Knight. I can literally send it account bound and open that legendary on my Death Knight. If, let's say, I get it on a monk and I have a monk that's leveling, I can now send a monk a legendary to make my leveling experience a little bit easier. Now let's talk about some of the things I don't like about the system. The first thing I don't like about it is, well, let's talk about that token system of legendaries. My rogue is capped out on all Legos, and let's say I get a token. That token comes in for me as a random class, so there's a possibility that it could give me a random legendary for a rogue class. And good thing I do have an alt rogue to send it to, but let's say you're a rogue and you get an alt rogue legendary token and you don't have an alt rogue, you kind of just have a useless item in your bags and there's nothing you can do about it. Also, you can get random tokens for random classes that you might not ever have thought of leveling, or classes that you're simply not interested in playing in, and the game will still reward you with these random tokens. So there's still RNG with this system, and it can still mess with people. There's no actual choice, which I think would have been a little bit better. I guess maybe if they would have allowed accuracy to say, okay, so which classes does this player have, at least at level 101, and which classes does this player not have? Let's say I don't have a monk at level 101, it will not reward me with monk items, which would be awesome, but there is a possibility that I might get a monk legendary without having a monk as an alt. Another con of the system that I don't like is the fact that Blizzard isn't letting people stack up and prepare for the system ahead of time. There's a lot of players that are excited about 735. There's a new battleground, we get more of the story with the Silithus and the artifact weapons, it's the final patch of the expansion, so that should be exciting. There might be some class changes coming in, and finally we'll be able to get legendaries. But the fact that Blizzard is not letting people prepare for this expansion, I just don't like that idea. I like if somebody puts in a lot of hard work, especially part of it hard work can be preparation for an expansion, to have at least some form of an advantage. And I feel like for a system like legendaries, I feel like they could have allowed players to do it, because it's a system that isn't going into the next expansion because they themselves didn't like it. Majority of player base doesn't really like it that much, so I feel like to make this easier by letting players prepare for it, I think might be better. It's not like we can really trade legendaries or put them on the auction house, so it's not like it makes profit. It's really just about having a player be able to get every single legendary so they can play multiple classes with multiple different playstyles, as those legendaries really do affect a lot of the various playstyles you can experience in the game, from Mythic Plus to a single target rotation to a world quest rotation to a world PvP playstyle. You have a lot of variety, and I felt like if Blizzard were to expedite the process, I would have been happier personally. The last con is the last patch, and they're adding the system in the last patch. I guess they just wanted to let players play around with their Legos, and that is good, but I kind of wish we had this maybe when people started first talking about legendaries, and when they started nerfing and buffing legendaries kind of a few patches ago. Because this kind of system a few patches ago would have allowed players at least to have a guarantee for a legendary. Hell, they could even take out the RNG prospect of a legendary and make it all about farming. At least for a lot of players that put in the time and put in the effort, it would have been a predictable amount of farming. Because even to this day, right now, before 735, it still is a RNG system. Even if you have a player who's doing every single dungeon they can, every single Mythic Plus, every single raid, every single instance, just playing the game, once they're past their bad luck protection, some players just have the most rotten luck they've ever seen. So to introduce this at the end of the expansion too, it makes me feel a little bit sour, thinking that, well, I got lucky with legendaries, but there's a lot of people that haven't got lucky and they've been playing the game as much as me, and I run a YouTube channel. So kind of wish they would have maybe added this earlier. It's late in the expansion and they're still not making it easy for people. I don't know how I feel about that personally. Well guys, this is everything I have for the Awakening Essences, all the numbers, my pros and cons, and my personal thoughts on the system. Again, I want to put this video out early just so I can develop into other projects. I wanted to cover this because I'm personally happy that I will finally be able to get some legendaries for some classes where I can at least, you know, try for another legendary. So I can try all these different builds. I can try to play some of these classes and specs how they were meant to be played. And some of them feel like they really were meant to be played with legendaries. I kind of wish they would have added this again earlier, or maybe at least allow us to choose which legendary we want to work towards, but I guess receiving a guarantee for a random legendary is enough for me and might be enough for you. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always guys, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. Likes allow my videos to reach a wider audience, so you giving my videos likes allows my channel to grow. If you guys enjoy this kind of updates and this kind of coverages, be sure to hit subscribe. And if you want to catch the live streams, which today we should be doing a 5v5 1v1 duel live stream on EU Horde as my brand new class. To check out that class, go ahead and not only hit the subscribe button, but hit the notification bell down in the description below to catch every single live stream. As always guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this update, and I'll see all of you in another video.